Do you have symptoms of perimenopause? Do you even know what those symptoms are? So many women suffer with hot flashes, mood changes, body changes, thinking something's wrong with them, but not knowing exactly what it is. Because as a society, we don't talk about it, and usually no one told us what to expect. Our guest today recognized this challenge because of her own experience, and she decided she wanted to change or actually start the conversation around these transitions. Where she chose to have the conversations may surprise you. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitzi Crockover, and welcome to Beyond the Paper Gown. Before we get started, though, I wanted to tell you about a podcast that is also a conversation between two doctors. It's called Is It Serious? Doctors Jean-Luc Neptune and Mark Lewis pull back the curtain on the American healthcare system and answer your health concerns, one question at a time. They cover everything from complex health issues to the absurdity of drug commercials. It's part of the Off Script Health Media Network, and we'll put a link to it in our podcast notes. I am with a very special guest today from across the pond. Lesley Salem is the founder of Over the Bloody Moon, which is a leading menopause support provider based in the UK. Welcome, Lesley.
Thank you so much. Lovely to be with you today.
I was immediately struck by the name of your company. So let's just start there. What's with the name?
Yeah, I get lots of comments, and I wanted to come up with a name that brought a smile to people and started a conversation. And it came to me really quickly. And it's one of those words, bloody doesn't always translate so well in the States. So just in case the listeners are not aware, in the UK, it can be seen as a bit of a blasphemy word, but it's also got a sense of humour in it. In that it can be used to emphasize something. So something, if you're over the bloody moon, you could be ecstatic about something, but equally it could be construed as sarcastic. And I quite like that in association with menopause, because one day you might wake up and feel like, on top of the world, and another day you're not having such a good day. So it represents, I suppose, some of the extremes that people might experience in menopause. But there's also a literal translation in that the menstrual cycle follows the lunar calendar, the moon cycle. And so being over the bloody moon relates to the transition of menopause and postmenopause. And I want, as an organization, to be holding the hands, from the beginning of the journey right through to the other side.
Thank you. And let's talk about that. What does your company do?
So we primarily work in the corporate space. We are one of the UK's leading menopause support providers, but we are a company that has been created with a social heart. So all of our paid for services, 25 to 30% of that goes straight back into supporting our community, providing them with free resources. So it's a business that's very much based on, giving back to the community. We do a lot of outreach work as well with charities and different organisations for people who don't normally have access to good quality information and trusted resources.
I want to get back to that because you also do some education in schools, which I find fascinating and really groundbreaking. But I want to roll back to what you said because I want the listeners to understand. And again, most of the listeners are coming from the United States, where menopause is maybe just being recognized. And I think that there's a groundswell of people wanting to talk about it and finally being able to. But I find it really interesting that you have targeted your market at the corporate level. And I would think that people might be surprised to hear that employers, corporations are making this a priority and are actually spending their resources for it. So talk a little bit about how you came to do that and what has been the reception.
I created over the bloody moon because I was one of the 10% of women who, it's estimated in the UK, are leaving their jobs because of menopause. I came off the pill, ironically, to balance my hormones and find out whether I was in menopause or not. And for me, all I knew was that menopause equals you don't have a period anymore. I wasn't aware of this stage beforehand, perimenopause. So when I came off it, within a matter of a few months, I was having hot flushes and night sweats, terrible brain fog, and then I started to lose my confidence, and then that led to anxiety and stress. And I just had this horrible moment where I was running a workshop and I just completely lost it in front of, a room of 100 clients. And very shortly after that, I handed in my notice. I just felt I wasn't kind of up to the job. And it was really that personal experience, that shock, that at 46, I was unaware of the different stages of menopause, and I didn't know how to spot the signs. That I felt so compelled to set up a business, and ultimately why I've decided to settle in the corporate world, because it feels really pertinent to me. Now, in the UK, we have one of the highest female representations in the workplace in the world. It's higher than in the States. It's around 75% of women will transition through menopause whilst in some kind of employment. And we're also living in an age of longevity. So women are having economically to work longer into their careers. And so menopause very much is a workplace issue, because if women are not getting the support that they need, and they're not thriving and they're not performing, or they're choosing not to go for promotion, or like me, they just decide to, walk out without their employers ever really knowing the real reason why, it is very much a workplace issue. And it's, an economic issue. There is no reason why women should not be thriving through their careers in menopause. The reason that they don't is either they're not aware of it, they delay getting the right support or management of menopause, they don't know where to go to get that support, and that they're masking it because they are in a culture where it's taboo. And our research, we just conducted one of the most comprehensive studies in the UK with a global data company called Kantar, and it's called Redefining Menopause. And we looked at what was going on in the workplace and out of the workplace. And what we found was that women that talk about menopause more, to more networks, are much more likely to describe their menopause symptoms as light or not noticeable at all. Whereas the women that are masking it are more likely to feel stressed, and that stress exacerbates the symptoms. So they're more likely to describe their menopause symptoms as moderate, severe, and even unbearable. So it's important in the workplace that we start talking about it. And, it's part of being a woman, and with the right support, the right management, and empathy by colleagues and appropriate sort of, support, then women thrive and the symptoms, disappear or become a lot more, less impaired.
As I'm hearing you talk about that, and maybe again, this is a UK US thing, and maybe it's because of what you said that you have more women in the workforce and in leadership positions. But one question that I do get when I've talked about what you do, it's like, don't you think that you're singling out women as being disabled or, needing to be coddled? Doesn't that put them at a disadvantage? Or I should say us at a disadvantage.
So it's a really good question. And we're very careful in the language and the way that we talk about it in every sort of touch point of our services, to show the positive side as well. So as I said, if women are able to talk about it, And if they're signposted as soon as they start to get symptoms with the different options, women thrive and do really well. So we're not saying that this is a disability. We're saying put the resources in, start talking about it, let women feel open in a safe and protected environment, and they will thrive. So, you know, that is really important. The other point to make is it's not just a women's issue. So anybody that's born with female sex characteristics, that might be a trans man who's coming off his treatment, or it might be a non-binary person, you know, they will also be affected. And also men may be affected with andropause, which is when testosterone levels drop. And there are over 10 common symptoms that are shared around the midlife for both men and women. So actually women are doing a service by getting this out, because when people are happy and when people are well and enhancing their well-being, companies benefit from that too.
What are some of the services that you provide to the corporations and to their employees?
It's all wrapped up. So we work with organizations to understand their culture and their demographic profile. The first starting point is either an awareness workshop for all employees, but sometimes when we're working with organizations that are male dominant, quite male heavy, or very masculine kind of leadership culture, command and control kind of culture, we will also offer men only sessions, education sessions, and that is also facilitated by men, so they feel more open to ask those questions. No question is a silly question, and they can also be less or more free to ask those questions where, you know, just in case they're going to offend somebody.
I'd love to be a fly on that wall.
Yeah. But sometimes, you know, but we also feel generally we recommend that it shouldn't be divided by the sexes, because that's the whole point. When men really listen to people's real stories, they get a sense and understanding and can empathize better. And likewise, women can also understand and appreciate that it might be difficult for a man who doesn't have a body that transitions and changes in a way that a woman's does. The first point is about helping people understand that menopause is different. There are so many different spectrums, or it's a spectrum of experiences. And we also talk about the different types of menopause. So often people think about it as a midlife time, but actually, you know, 1 in 100 people will experience that under the age of 40, which is premature, or early menopause, which is under the age of 45. And also because of medical reasons, either right. Somebody might have had their ovaries damaged because of cancer, or removed because of prevention for cancer. Or there's a surgery like a hysterectomy, a womb or ovaries removed. And our research also, I mean, I've known this from our community for years, but it was validated in our research that women that go through medically induced menopause have a much tougher time. And so again, this is really important for HR, because they might receive a request for somebody to go off and have cancer treatment or a hysterectomy, and they're thinking about the length of the treatment and then getting them back into work. But what the person that's going through it, and they might not appreciate, is that that person will go into instant estrogen withdrawal. And
it's very severe. It's very dramatic.
Yeah, it's very dramatic, and it's often more symptoms at any one time than a person going through natural menopause. I always talk about, for an organization to become menopause friendly, you know, there's different pillars. There's your strategy, then there are the the systems, the policy, the recording of metrics, whether someone is, why they're really sick and why they're really leaving, employee satisfaction, etc. And then you've got the training, which is really critical, because that is about how you have people in your business that are on the front line. They're there for people that are directly impacted by menopause, and they can offer early intervention. And they also are really mindful and going around internally to make sure that other people are avoiding things like banter that might actually be inappropriate. And then finally, we work in partnership with other respected specialists to provide support.
Have you had a chance to review any results or outcomes?
Yeah, so we're working with different organizations to look at their baseline KPIs. Anecdotally, we know that it's opening up conversation. And also, as I said, the Menopause Mentors are an accredited training program. We are seeing within a matter of weeks, they're reporting back to us that there is a cultural shift, that more people are coming forward asking for help. So it's in progress, because I do like data.
In America and across the world, populations are aging, so this should make a lot of sense. But we also have a very much a embedded youth culture, and there is ageism, and nobody wants to think about themselves as aging. Is that a barrier to you that you've had to deal with?
Yeah. So when we are going into tech companies or companies with a younger profile, we say, look, it's going to happen to some of your colleagues directly, but it's going to impact on everybody, because at one stage of someone's life, they will either be in a partnership with someone, or they will know somebody that might be having a tough time, or might just want to be able to talk about it. Something that in this age of longevity, everybody is going to know about. So don't be on the back foot.
We're going to take a break, and when we get back, we'll find out that it's never too early to talk about menopause and the impact that those conversations can have on families. Hi, welcome back to Beyond the Paper Gown. We're talking with Lesley Salem, founder of Over the Bloody Moon, a menopause support organization. So let's talk about those programs that you are doing in schools. And from what I can see, because I follow you on social media, they're very well received, and you make it a point to make sure that boys and girls are part of that conversation. So tell us a little bit about that.
I've got 3 teenage daughters who are 19, 17 and 15. And I want them to be educated about menopause. And about 2 years ago, September 2019, there was a campaigning that was spearheaded by a lady called Diane Danzebrink, who did an amazing job in the UK government to get them to introduce menopause in the secondary school national curriculum. We have 2 topics, PSHE and RSHE, which is like relationship, sex and health education. And fertility, is covered. Sexual kind of, activity is covered. So in September 2019, menopause was added into that conversation. However, a year ago, I was, looking at this, I'm thinking I'm running all of these sessions. I quite like to go into my kids' schools and do, sort of a version for kids. And I thought I'd just see, who's doing it. There's obviously organizations for all matter of topics. And I just was really surprised. There was no one was doing anything in this space. So I am very, very lucky in that I have two fantastic volunteer platforms that I use, Reach Volunteering and Matchable Volunteering, because we operate as a social enterprise. And so it's given me access to an amazing team of volunteers who are really the engine behind Over the Bloody Moon. And so together with the team, we co-created a lesson plan, different lesson plans, a toolkit, and different workshops that fitted with either 40-minute or 60-minute lessons that were tailored cognitively to the children that we were teaching by year group, and also to connect and be integrated with the lessons that they were having for their age group, you know, also that were associated with menopause. And I've loved it. It's the one place that constantly brings me to tears, because after I run it, the kids kind of come up and they start to tell me stories. You know, there was one girl who came up a couple of months ago, and I actually ran in the school a series of different workshops for the children, but then we ran a parent and one for the parents and staff that night, and she'd gone home and told her mum to go to the one in the evening, and she came, I went back into the school to run another workshop, and she came up to me and she said, I just want to thank you, you've changed my family's life, because my mum, I lost her, you know, for 2 years. She was in a terrible depressed state, and she was really scared of hormone replacement therapy, and as a result of the session, she's now gone to the doctor and she's got lots of help, and I feel like I've got my mum back, so thank you. And oh god, it just makes me want to well up now. But you know, that's, for me, that's what this is all about. You know, I feel like I just want to keep talking about it, because you know that this has a very real, powerful impact on people's lives, you know, on children's lives, on partners' lives.
And when you and I were speaking prior to recording, you mentioned that there seems to be this groundswell or menopause movement in the UK. Is that what you were alluding to?
Yeah, so people are calling it the menopause revolution, the menopause movement. So it's really powerful. In September, a menopause task force was set up by the government, chaired by Carolyn Harris, who we know and we work with. And so it's her responsibility. She's brought a group of MPs together and other advocates, such as, you know, Over the Bloody Moon and other organisations, to help address some of the key issues that are impacting at a societal level. So the Menopause Task Force is got 3 kind of key pillars. One is education, as in schools, you know, educating our kids so they are aware of it, prepared, and can support and understand why a mum or auntie might be behaving in the way that they are, and sort of get the support that they need, as well as the person directly impacted. The second is the healthcare system, looking at where the gaps are and the massive failings that are happening right now. So they're looking at that, making sure that healthcare professionals have proper training. That 2 years ago it was taking 30% of women 3 years to get proper, correct diagnosis, which was costing the NHS billions, because you had all these separate symptoms that were actually all to do with menopause and low estrogen, with one person that was going off to all these different, you know, specialists, being prescribed incorrect things, unnecessary tests and scans. So ultimately there's a whole savings as well in there. And then the third piece is in the workplace. You know, is the legislation enough to support people in the workplace, and how can we better that? So that's kind of like that's the next really big thing that needs to happen. And we've actually designed a menopause hot flush vest called Menovest, which we're going into the Houses of Parliament in 2 weeks' time. So the members of Parliament will be able to try it on and experience what a hot flush is, and we're bringing it into the workplace. So it's a way of getting the conversation going.
Oh, that's terrific. What's next for Lesley Salem and for Over the Bloody Moon?
So we're doing really well in the UK in the corporate space. We've got amazing clients like Heineken and Procter and Gamble and Linklaters and Cantor and every sort of the NHS England, which is our National Health Service, councils and trusts. So we're working with public and private sector blue chip companies. So I want to keep growing. I want my client base to grow and to see every company of over a certain size to have a policy in place. And my ambition is we're now working in the States, in the US, and I want to grow that as well. So, I just want what we're doing to kind of just keep doing more of it and get more companies on board and understand the very real reason why they need to be investing, which is that they're retaining people, they're retaining talent and the knowledge that more balanced, gender balanced teams are more productive.
Again, your focus of your business is corporate and employer based, but can individuals access your services and your education?
We launched in May OTBM Club, which stands for Over the Bloody Moon Club, and the idea is that this is a community. We have a Facebook, which is at Over the Bloody Moon, about menopause, and then on Instagram at Over the Bloody Moon. And then, so on the website, anybody that signs up, which is a free subscription and will remain free, there are the 4 pillars: nutrition, movement, mind, and sleep management. And women can go into that and they can choose their learning preference, whether they want to listen, watch, or download and use. And there are all sorts of resources on there. And they can also get access to free 1-hour virtual masterclasses that we run with different experts. And we're working with brands as well that we trust, that have got evidence behind them. People get access to, the benefits of discounts and things like that. We have also on the website our team of specialists, so people can book in private consults, with them on all matter of different things as well.
And as you said, this is open to both UK and abroad, so including the United States.
Yeah.
Great. So as we're wrapping up, what did I not ask you that we should discuss?
I think the point that I want to leave listeners with is that menopause should be and can be managed very effectively. So if you're not doing anything because you think that there's other stuff going on in your life, and so you're not sure whether it's hormone based, go see someone that is a specialist in menopause, but also know that this is an amazing time of life. So if you were to ask me, well, Lesley, what is great about menopause, from my own personal experience and what I've seen from the community, is that when people recognize that there is a shift, and that there is a requirement to prioritize one's needs, then there is a huge amount of insight and self-discovery that comes with that. I talk about 4 things for the menopause transition, for a happy transition. The first is source. So source in to stop trying to block out that voice, whether that be anger, whether that be fear, if it's surrounded by negative emotion, be curious about what that is telling you, and step into it, step into the source, and also identify very early on what your superpowers are and what your resources are internally and externally that you can draw on or will need to draw upon. The second stage is shedding. And the shedding is getting rid of the things that no longer serve you. That might be people. That might be the rules that I've just mentioned. That might be, lifestyle habits. And then the third is shape. So add into your life things that are going to nourish you, but be playful with it. It doesn't mean like you have to commit to something, but it's a really exciting time, because it's a time when people start to emerge again, and they're trying new skills or discovering new talents. It might be a time when somebody shifts careers like me and has, completely retrained and found, new skills and new passions. And then the final piece is shine. When you truly emerge from sort of the cocoon and become the butterfly, it's about telling your story. It's about letting everyone see your colours, and the real you. So it's a really liberating time when that happens. If you can navigate that, you are in for an amazing gift.
Lesley Salem, you have been an amazing gift for coming on today and sharing your insights and your wisdom and your experiences. Lesley Salem, founder of Over the Bloody Moon, thanks again for coming and being with us today.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to catch up again, Mitzi.
I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. It made me think about how we here in the United States could really learn from the serious recognition that menopause is receiving in the UK in terms of changing policies around medical training and access to care, incorporating menopause education in schools, and even making workplaces more menopause friendly. I'd love to hear what you think as well. You can let us know at beyondthepapergown.com. Thank you for listening.